Whoa, making a video. Probably shouldn't. Hythloday response video. Yeah, so look out. This'll hurt. They just can't do anything else but hurt. Whatever. I don't know what to do with, it's just incoherent what Hythloday says. So in one part of his video he says, selfishness is bad. Okay. Then he says suffering is irrelevant. Then he says punishment is bad. Over punishing somebody is terrible. Why? If suffering isn't bad, how could punishment be bad? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's duplicity all over this nonsense. He calls it philosophy. Somehow principles are so fucking important that, yes, for some principles you'll just blow the whole planet up. But the principle isn't that suffering sucks, that suffering's bad. No, it's some other stupid reason. So it's not to prevent suffering. It's not because something was tortured. No, it's because somebody farted at the ballet. And it's ruined. Yes, the prima ballerina farted, and it just fucked the whole thing. Oh, fuck it. That's important. Torture a kid with cancer? Who cares? How does it affect me? I gave somebody 7 weeks too much detention. Oh, what a crime. But if I stuck a nail in their eye, who the fuck cares? I'm just saying, you can't make any sense out of this dribble. So anyway, this is where he does his little tirade on the subject. Tirade is the wrong word. But this stupid, I can just negate the negative quality of experience. He does this later when he's talking about free will. He basically just says, we're testifying. We're not testifying to a real experience. We're just testifying. So we might as well be lying as far as he's concerned. Because our testimony doesn't mean anything. It's just words. So if I say, it feels bad to have a nail in my eye, I might as well say, UFOs are attractive. Aliens are really, ooh, I'm hot to fuck one. Those two statements are somehow comparable as the same thing. I mean, one being an honest statement about life experience and actual happenings in the universe, and the other being a fantasy statement that means absolutely nothing. No, they're not the same. One is a description of reality, one's a description of bullshit. I mean, it's just impossible. And then after this, he even does a little bit of physics, which is sort of important because I have, it does get funky.
Because suffering is intrinsic value, and really that's just a different word statement, but has the same meaning. And I've said to this.
Yes, you keep saying things like that. Somehow it's arbitrary. Somehow it's erroneous. There's no evidence that suffering is bad. Yes, there is evidence. I've witnessed the evidence. So this is a preposterous statement. I'm not just testifying out of vapor or ether or invisible bent space. I'm testifying out of actual fucking experience. And if you want to say I'm a liar, that's preposterous. You want to say I'm deluded and that everybody else who has had a bad feeling is deluded, go ahead and try that one, but it doesn't sound very plausible either. Silly person.
Just agree that makes it begging the question.
It's begging the question to say I witnessed the activity. I witnessed O.J. Simpson. I was sitting on the street. I witnessed O.J. Simpson walk up to his wife, cut her head off, and then stab the little Goldman guy and then run home. I saw it. And you're saying, no, you didn't. I'm saying, yes, I did. I saw it. Okay, it happened. It's not a lie. It's not fictitious. It's not erroneous. I have experience, idiot. Okay, you can say it doesn't exist in any material configuration. Blah, blah, blah. It does. It's inside a brain. A brain is a material configuration. It creates this thing called whatever, the hologram of consciousness, the illusion of consciousness, whatever it is, it's a projection inside of a brain. It's a creation inside of a brain. It fucking happens. God damn.
It's really replacing one rather simplistic assertion with another simplistic.
It's a simplistic assertion. What's simplistic? It's simplistic as saying I went swimming. I know that I can go in water and I can swim in it because I went in it. It's as simplistic as saying I'm an astronaut coming back from the moon and saying, look, I walked on the moon. The dust is only this fucking thick, okay? I walked on it. I jumped up and down on it. It's not quicksand. The dust isn't 7 feet thick. I know something because I actually was there and I fucking did it. I'm doing consciousness, jackass. I don't need you to tell me I'm not doing consciousness because I'm doing it, shithead. Yeah, yes, it's an assertion. That's exactly right. It's an assertion based on experience, which is evidence, which is an experiment. I'm doing the fucking experiment. I'm consciously alive. I'm alive, therefore I'm doing the consciousness experiment because I'm alive and I have a fucking brain capable of manifesting it. I'm doing the fucking experiment, jackass. All right? The source of the fact is not from the ether, shithead. It's from fucking experience.
Very difficult to understand.
Oh, it's difficult to understand. Liar much? You're fucking conscious, jackass. Don't tell me you can't tell the difference between a cupcake and a nail in your eye, because we know you fucking can.
To see any philosophic depth other than
philosophical depth. He's saying you need philosophical depth to understand that there's a thing called good feelings and things called bad feelings. Water's wet. Is that philosophically shallow? I don't think so. It's a fundamental fucking fact. Gravity exists. It's another fucking fact. The fact that the fact is simple doesn't mean the fact is irrelevant or unmeaningful, dumbass. The world is not flat. You can't get much simpler than that, right? Does that mean it's philosophically vacant as a fact? No, it's rich with fucking information and reality and significance. It's really fucking significant.
Once assertion with another assertion.
Well, whatever, an assertion based on fucking evidence.
And when you scrutinize that such...
Well, yeah, why don't you scrutinize it? Go ahead and make the accusation that I'm not really conscious. Go ahead and try that shit for brain. But you're not going to sell it to anybody rational. Maybe you could sell that idea to somebody collecting Coke bottles, but nobody else is going to believe it, shithead.
Supplanted statement about what value is.
Yeah, what value is just a fact of something being either good or bad. Once things are put in that category, once something fits in the fucking category, then it exists, okay? So here we could just say, here's the category, good and bad. Is there anything worthy of putting in those categories? Well, if nothing was feeling, then I guess nothing would go in those categories. But because things are feeling, and because there are good feelings and bad feelings, yes, we can put feelings in those categories. Duh!
You just get that it's a testimony from inmendham himself.
Well, and every other rational sentient being that's all fucking goddamn honest. They're going to say, yes, there are feelings I never want to have again, and there are feelings I'd like to have every 43 seconds. That is a truth.
Oh, other people.
Yes, are other people, like all other people who have ever existed with a brain that is all rational and coherent to anything called reality.
I was in the middle, I don't know when I'll get round to finishing this, but I was covering some old ground from when the first interview, so-called, that I had with inmendham, which presses home I was dealing with an element of it which deals with the subjective and arbitrary nature.
Subjective and arbitrary nature of things like, what's your favorite pizza topping? Yes, that's subjective. The fact that pizza is food and that generally pizza gives people pleasure, that fact is different than the fact that pizza topping cheese is good, better than broccoli or something.
Of such assertions from persons that say that if you don't share it, then you are bad, you are wrong.
Well, I'm sorry, it's just a fact. It's not, yes, you're bad and you're wrong. I mean, if you haven't recognized that there's something in the world called good and bad, that there's a qualitative difference in experience, you're a fucking insane lunatic. You've missed the most important fact in the universe. There's no other fact more important. In fact, you believing the earth is flat would be more okay and less destructive to your potential behavior than believing there's no such thing as good and bad feelings. That is more catastrophic a vacancy in your understanding of reality. You can't get more catastrophically stupid than to miss the most important fact in the universe, and that is, if you squish kitty and it goes meow yeah and its guts fly out of its mouth, not a good thing happened, jackass. Something bad fucking happened.
And the only evidence for that wrongness is that they think differently.
That's the only evidence of the wrongness, is that I can't imagine being squished to death and thinking it's a great time, because I'm somehow deluded. I'm a fool, because I think being crushed to death would be highly and intensely fucking bad. It would be unpleasant, horrible, torturous, agonizing, nasty motherfucking experience. I'm an idiot for believing that. That's what this fucking idiot who doesn't jump into fire, who doesn't jump in front of steamrollers, who does nothing to show us how he doesn't give a fuck about experiencing horrible sensations. Why don't you show us you experiencing horrible sensation? Please, stick a fucking goddamn pencil in your fucking eye, jackass. And then cut your dick off, you brainless fuck. Just to show me how much you just don't give a fuck what condition your sentient experience is experiencing.
Because they know the truth, and they know it from themselves, and they don't get that.
Yeah, we do get that. Every fucking goddamn person, if I give them sodium pentothal, they're going to admit they can tell the difference between having a nail in their eye and eating a cupcake. And they will admit that, yes, it is preferable to eat fucking cupcakes than to have nails in their fucking eye.
If that's what counts as evidence.
Yes, that counts as evidence. Every single honest person on earth will testify to the fact that they can tell the difference between fun and torture.
Then they have no way of arguing from another person's point of view where they say, you know, no, you're wrong.
Oh, again, show me this person and I'll show you a liar. Show me the person who says there's no qualitative difference between any experience I have. They're all the fucking same. No qualitative difference. Show me that person. It doesn't goddamn exist. This is a fallacious... I mean, you can't get more fucking straw man than to invent human beings that don't even exist.
This because I know suffering matters to me and only me.
And so how does that make any sense? Nobody else could possibly, with a rational brain, sit there and be that solipsistically idiotic. Only an idiot could be that solipsistically stupid as to think, I'm the only consciousness, the rest of the people aren't conscious. That's moronic. More moronic than believing in a flat earth. More moronic than believing Bugs Bunny is Jehovah.
Anyway, so that's that.
Yeah, that's that. What a crock of motherfucking shit. How does he get away with saying shit this fucking goddamn stupid without everyone just going, hey, Hythloday, you're too fucking stupid to continue to make videos, but that's just goddamn idiotic. It only matters to me. Other people are dying in earthquakes? Who cares? It only matters to me. How does it affect me? Their torture isn't meaningful. It isn't real. It isn't happening in the universe. Now, if it was happening to me, I would testify that, yes, something's happening. But my testimony would be important because I'm testifying. When they're testifying, the testimony means nothing. Fuck you, crazy fuck. Alright. So now we'll jump ahead to the physics portion of the shit. I don't think there's anything here.
I've been quite excited the last couple of days.
Okay, yes, he has a physics theory about spin, electron spin. So yes, I'm looking forward to hearing it. Blah blah blah. Yes, hopefully it's correct. And another strike at the silly quantum bullshit universe created by the silly phantasmagorical, lazy ass motherfucking cunt physicists who aren't really good scientists. They're really shitty scientists. They're good at, having a personality on TV, but yes, they suck at doing science. Anyway, 24 we'll go to. So anyway, here we go.
What question to inmendham, if he catches this, is I don't understand how in his theory that everything doesn't coalesce into one globule. What?
Well, first off, because velocity is hard to acquire in big things. So only you have to be blown out of something. You have to be like supernovaed out of something to be able to gain any kind of velocity once you're a material thing. And it's just the odds of hitting something else, right? And as I've already explained, when you start making things bigger, okay, you have this problem where the gravity in the middle disappears. And that means eventually you wipe out all the gravity. The gravity is an external force that's holding something together. If you block all the gravity with a bunch of other things that are moving, and the gravity can't get, it's accelerating all this other stuff, and it can't get to the stuff in the middle, then those atoms break apart. They fall apart. So right there's an explanation that there was a maximum size you can acquire before you start to break down the interior structure, and all the matter on the inside turns back into energy, and it destroys the matter on the outside. It's supernovas. That's why it's supernovas, is because it gets too big, and when it gets too heavy, it destroys the integrity of the matter in the center and creates essentially its own nuclear bomb that blows it into a billion pieces. So, I mean, I've already answered this in my videos, essentially.
Is it we have electrons and protons and neutrons?
Right, they're just different. I explained this as polarization, okay? The distinction between these things has to do with their orientation. And polarization needs, yes, it's a tricky subject. So, yeah, I have to explain it. I'm just saying the general principle is understandable, that there's this idea where if you send something going one way, the thing is sensitive to it, and you should send it going another way, it's invisible to it. That's understandable. I mean, it's just as simple as the jail bars on a jail, and you could say, well, if I throw all the frisbees vertically, they'll all go straight through, and if I throw them horizontally, they'll all get blocked. So in principle, it's easy to understand. What the exact mechanism is, who the fuck, okay, that has to be written up yet. All right, but the idea, the principle of how it works is there to be understood. And we already understand it as, number one, an electrical force, charge, which ends up being magnetism. And we already understand how magnetism can create repulsion, so there's your answer.
Why don't electrons globulize into protons and neutrons?
Well, we know why electrons don't globulize is because they are, again, negatively charged. So they're expelling a force that electrons hate. So they're essentially creating an odor, like man juice. And the other men are saying, ooh, I don't like man juice. Okay, I want vagina juice. It's that kind of thing. All right, it's a mechanism, and the mechanism of electron on electron just don't work, okay? The universe says you can't do it that way. Electrons will not just globalize because they are repulsive to each other based on what they're extruding based on the gravity. So they've polarized the gravity that they're ejecting, and that polarization is exactly the polarization the other electrons say, fuck you, I'm not doing that.
Protons and neutrons in the center of atoms just coalesce. Why do they remain distinct elements if there's...
Well, again, it's okay, you can ask the question, I mean, I suppose, but I'm just saying, I think it's in the explanations in the videos I've made already. I mean, I have to do more detail on that, but I have drawn the picture of the proton, the neutron, and I have explained that if I'm a proton and the gravity that goes through me is all turned into polarized gravity going this way, all right, and that kind of gravity, you know, that kind of graviton. So see, gravity gets confusing because we think of the absence of gravity that's causing some things to draw in, and it's always a pushing force. So anyway, so I'm producing the exact substance that the electrons, okay, would find, you know, they go right through them, just like the bars. It goes right through them. And so the electrons have the external force that's still pushing them, so they could be pushed right into the proton. That's why they have to have a velocity, or they do get consumed by the proton, theoretically. You see, but the neutron is there, and the neutron's doing something exactly the difference, right? Neutron could be producing the exact opposite polarization, or a mixture of the two polarizations, right? Positive and negative. And so therefore, every time the neutron shows up, the electron's pulled in towards the proton, but then the neutron swings around the proton and says, you know, and it's exuding enough repulsive gravitons that the electron backs off, and then it swings by, and then the electron is seeing the proton again. It's saying, I want-y, and it goes in, and then the thing comes up around the front again and knocks it the hell back out again. This isn't, you know, this isn't beyond understanding in principle. Again, you want some explicit diagram. Well, Einstein hasn't provided explicit diagrams of the silly current model they have. The standard model is the most insane, preposterous pile of mishy-mush gloopy glop that you want to ever come across. So, I mean, the standard you're applying to me, like, you want some explicit description of exactly what happens? I can't tell you exactly what happens. I'm telling you in principle what's happening. And I'm saying polarization is a fundamental property that's affecting the functions of atoms.
This continual bombarding which forces things to aggregate into globular form.
Yeah, there's rules. That's all. There's rules of the solar system. You understand that. You can't disobey the rules. You can't just, the Earth can't just stop and say, I'm tired. It's going to go right into the sun. These are just the rules. They're just rules, okay? And, you know, you want the explicit diagram of the rules? All I can do is give you a general picture of the rules.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't an explanation of chemistry why, you know, why you have the idea of, you know, electrons, full orbital shells, and one orbital shell, you know, a gap in an orbital shell.
Yeah, well, you say, you know, I'm just saying that I think it's there. I'm just saying that if you can't understand that, well, yeah, you could increase as you increase the mass of, say, an electron, you increase its orbital speed. Those are two different things, right? So you just move it to a different orbit, and now it can have a greater mass to go with its greater velocity. So it can hold more photons. And now you have a more energetic atom. And later it can release those and fall to a lower orbit.
I mean, it's reactive because it only needs one to fill it, or only one electron in the orbital shell, which means it's reactive because it only has to get rid of that one electron and so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, it's much cruder than the solar. The solar system is smooth because, yeah, it's made out of gazillions and bazillions of these little bits. But I'm just saying, obviously, on the more mechanical, the more crude level of the atomic atom, it's probably very jittery and very, so, you know, lots of noise in there. But the general principle is quite understandable.
This whole idea, you know, there's so many, so much.
I mean, look, they're drawing these things as if they're spheres and all this stuff comes out of there. But in that, like I said, in those smaller dimensions, it might not even be any rules like that. They might be crystals. They might be, you know, they might have facets. You know, it doesn't have to look like this crayon drawing of reality.
In the way of phenomena to be explained by one simple axiom from inmendham's physics.
Well, it's not one simple axiom, but frankly, okay, they're descriptions. Okay, Einstein described relativity. He's proposing, okay, that there's space is bent, and with it this dimension of time, this dimension that doesn't have any. Who says it's a dimension? There's forward, back, up, down, left, right. There's no freaking time dimension. It's not a dimension. It's a consequence of movement. So maybe I should get into that one. Because I have a new interpretation of time, which I think works better. As a constant. The thing that's the constant is the interaction speed, not the actual speed of light. It's just that light can never avoid being in a medium, so it never gets to go its absolute speed. So in a vacuum it's its quickest speed because there's less stuff in its way, so it has less interactions. But as it goes through matter, it can have a lot of interactions, and that's what slows it down. That's why light travels so slowly through glass, is because it's having lots of interactions getting through the glass. It's doing lots of kinetic interactions. So it's the time it takes to do a kinetic interaction that is the constant. That takes a specific amount of time. Otherwise, light is infinitely fast. But there's no non-medium. So I would say, I guess I would suggest at the end of the universe, light essentially disappears because it becomes infinitely fast. I mean, infinite speed would be disappearance. Non-existence. Which is an interesting thought experiment. I mean, it's interesting as a conceptual idea. Yes, something that moves in an instantaneous speed couldn't exist. There's just no way for it to exist. There's no way for it to have of a reality. It can't do reality because reality takes time, and it never takes time. It does everything instantaneously, so it's finished. I mean, it's at the starting line is the finish line. It's go, over. I mean, it's, you know, it's gone, it's done, finished, did everything, over. So yeah, its reality runs out instantly, which is interesting. Anyway, so I don't know if I want to get into that, but I guess I should, because I have to do it for the physics thing. See, but this is the tying the polarization and the whole function of the atom. See, before I've been explaining that this gravity thing only exists as a blocking force while you're being accelerated by the gravity. The gravity has to be moving you. You actually have to be, the pieces inside of you have to be somehow consuming the gravity. But how would they be consuming it, right? Because it's the point is like light goes through space and it doesn't get moved all over the place, right? It's hitting all kinds of, gravity is coming at it from all different directions, but it never moves the light off path. And why doesn't it? It's because, number one, there's not as many interactions, but more importantly, the reason why that doesn't happen is, let's see, how am I going to explain this one? It's not the reason why that it does happen. but why it doesn't manifest in gravity. You know, why see essentially what's happening when gravity goes through something, it wouldn't be blocked unless there's some way it gets consumed. It has to get consumed, because by my theory, right, we're back to this thing again. You know, the X thing. You know, when the kinetic interaction happens, so two things come in, two things go out. And the theory is that you know, it's identical to it never happening. But the idea is the orbit would be created by this effect. If you think about it this way, that this thing ends up going this way and this thing ends up going this way, then you understand that the two things have changed their path. But the problem is it's still two things going out. So if this was gravity here, or a photon going through matter, the photon would always end up still going through the matter. I mean, there would be no way to stop it, because that's still happening. That path will still continue no matter how much stuff hits it this way or this way. That can only change the matter. So the matter can start moving with the photon, but it can't stop the photon. It can't kill the photon. It can't consume the photon. And so the only way it could do that is there has to be some obligation of something that's stopping it from getting loose, something that's compressing it. It's not getting out somehow, and that not getting out somehow has to be some sort of time. It can't get out because it keeps getting blocked by another interaction. So interactions keep getting thrown at this thing, and so the more interactions there are, the more of these kinetic actions happen, the slower and slower and slower and slower this photon progresses, if you get me. And it's manifested in the sense that that's creating the acceleration, is the fact that that element of directional information never escapes, because it keeps getting interacted with. It keeps kinetically interacting. And as long as it keeps getting kinetically interacted with, it can't make forward progress. So, yeah, so this is where things get complicated. But I mean, the idea would be, but this would also explain that something only has gravity. It's only causing something else to feel its gravity when it's actually accelerating, which means it's in the process of causing interactions that are exchanging this directional information. So it has to be in the process of changing directional information, changing arrows, to be preventing arrows from leaving it. So the only way it can stop the arrow from going straight through it is it has to slow it down. And slowing it down is pretty much the same as stopping it, theoretically. If you get me. Yeah, I think you can understand that. Yeah, and frankly, it ends up slowing it down quite completely. And that part I still haven't figured out how it exactly, you know, as the matter starts accelerating, it has to keep being accelerated. You know, there's some mechanism that, what's the right way to put it, that allows the idea of this migration to end up going back to the beginning again. It keeps circling through something. It's almost like the idea of, so when something has velocity, it means it's got something already, an imbalance established inside of it. But something's taking that imbalance that tends to move through it and is somehow getting it back to the starting line. You know, somehow it has to keep regenerating that condition. And so, yeah, I have to explain that. But the idea that gravity only manifests, you only expel gravity to something else. You only cause there to be a lack of gravity. I mean, a lack of force that is the feeling of gravity. So the Earth is preventing the force from coming up through the Earth and hitting me. So therefore the force coming down is stronger. That's the gravitational effect. But that can only happen while bits of the earth are being moved, accelerated towards me. So the bits of the earth are accelerating towards me, and that's the consumption of arrows that would have hit me if they weren't stuck in there still having interactions. So it's the time delay that has prevented me from feeling the gravity. And the time delay exists as long as the matter is accelerating. As long as the bits are still accelerating in the direction of the gravitational effect. But the trick is this, like things like the sun don't accelerate. They're stuck in one place and their matter is accelerating. But again, it accelerates. You can understand the current going this way, and you can even understand it going back the other way. But you have to account for how it goes back the other way. And with the sun, the accounting is the fact that there are different planets, and so it evens out. That the gravity becomes equally distributed. Yeah, well, I don't want to get into that technicality. Oh, yeah, sorry, this is an inmendham video anyway. So I don't want to get into that much detail. But anyway, it's something I am thinking about. I knew I have to explain it eventually. I have to get more, I have to try to put more detail on this. But I'm just saying the idea of it, the principle of it, is understandable. The idea of the consumption of the directional information and the idea that you can configure that directional information in certain ways that make it more or less potent, conceptually that's gold, in my opinion. Anyway, so now in this end he gets into free will. And you're saying, who the fuck are you talking to? Because he brought up the same nonsense. He brought up the same stupid homunculus bullshit. That's not an argument Trick is making. Nobody's arguing that something makes real choices. We're arguing that you're programmed by your life experience, and that consciousness is something witnessed. There's no me, there's programs. Me, this entity, I did not consciously compose any of the sentences I just spoke. These words I'm saying right now to you. I'm just as surprised as you are by their configuration and content. I had nothing to do with their composition. Brain did it. My programs did it. I'm watching me live. That's all. I'm not doing it. My brain is doing it. So again, you keep lying about what argument's being made, okay? You want to say the only argument is some philosopher 200 years ago or 100 years ago, and nobody can make any other argument? Well, that's a silly obligation. That's a silly rule. Nobody can nobody can use the word projection or theater unless they're talking what he was talking. No, that's not what's being argued. And he makes the direct statement saying, without free will, you can't have consciousness. What are you talking about? It's a program. There's nothing free. It's programmed. Experience programs it. It will decide what you will decide. Your life experience will make the decision on what you will do. That's the fact. There's no choice, really. There's no processing beyond reflexes. Programmed reflexes. No obligation for any kind of freedom. And what is free will anyway? It doesn't make any sense. And we've already argued this. There's a thing we call the will, which is just the program agenda. And the agenda is defined by the programming. Whether you have a foot fetish or not, it's going to be decided by your programming. It doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from something. And there's nothing free about it. You don't freely choose it. Shit. Anyway. So anyway, it's all a straw man. I mean, all his arguments are just straw man arguments. He keeps arguing with the world that doesn't exist. He never directly quotes anybody that he's arguing with. And like I said, in this like I said, if you watch this crap at the end, you're saying, well, you're not arguing Trick's argument, so why did you even bring him up? Because you're arguing somebody else's argument. This is not Trick's argument. So anyway, I just called total bullshit. So anyway, yeah, so enough. So I will make a physics video, I guess, talking more about this this idea that it is kinetic interactions that determine how much time it takes for force to migrate from here to some other place, and that empty space has a certain amount of volume, a rather consistent volume of interactions per square inch, and that's determining the speed of light. But the light itself isn't moving a speed. It's the kinetic interactions that are consuming time. And when light travels through matter, or when gravity travels through matter, it is necessarily slowed down. And it is that time delay that provides the no gravity is hitting him, no gravitons are getting to him, because they're having to waste a bunch of time accelerating my matter. So it actually takes time to accelerate the spaceship. That's why it doesn't just shoot into the air, because it takes time to accelerate all the little bits of the spaceship. And through that process, if you could be in front of it, there would be a kind of gravity created by the fact that it's blocking all this force. If it was gravity that was moving it. If it was accelerating in gravity, the gravity of the thing accelerating would probably be a little stronger as it's accelerating right in front of it. But who wants to, I don't know if you can even figure that out. I mean, try that experimentally. But it doesn't really matter. The point is that's why it takes time to accelerate, because it takes time to move all the little tiny bits, and all the little tiny bits account for a kinetic reaction. So you have to essentially, if you think of yourself like an atom is to an apple as the earth is to an apple, right? So just think about an apple to the size of the earth. Well, an atom is to an apple, same relationship. And then just think about all the little bits inside of the atom. So when you think about how much stuff, when something moves, how many individual reactions have to take place for it to move. Every single one of those little bits has to be kinetically interacted with and moved in the direction. And that's what's consuming the time, is all those kinetic reactions. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable way to say it. Okay, anyway. So till next time, and such. Sorry to mix subjects. But, that's what he did. And I really didn't want to make two separate videos. And I just wanted to show that he was wrong on every single one of these subjects. He's just wrong. And he keeps creating straw man arguments. He keeps making accusations that are either already been answered, it's already been explained, it's already been accounted for, or he's making statements saying you can't testify to consciousness reliably or honestly. And I think I can do both. And your accusation that I can't do either is nonsensical crap. Alright, anyway, enough said. Till next time.